The compact car is dead. Long live the compact. Well, maybe it's dead, maybe it's not. Maybe they could just throw in a wheel, throw in a controller, throw in a joystick. Who knows? I think I might know, but Herbert might disagree with me on a point or two. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futurosa. So we have seen some interesting news, of course. Back in April, we saw the Redwood, the pure Robotaxi Model 2 was canceled, and that there was some confusion. And the confusion wasn't helped by Elon's statement that Reuters is lying. That's difficult to counteract something like that. And he said, no. NV91 was canceled and H422 were canceled. Those were some vehicle about which we do not know. And so, of course, Elon immediately announced the 8.8 event, which became the 10.10 event, to show that no, guys, we still have something going on here. And there's been a lot of speculation that no, it's not actually dead. But I would point out that this gentleman here disagrees. Elon Musk says it's pointless to build a human-driven $25,000 Tesla.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if people are familiar with this gentleman. He knows he's involved with some of the decision-making at Tesla. When Reuters reported in April that it was scrapped, they rushed. Reuters is lying. There it is.
Yeah.
And Reuters claimed to have seen external documents that had gone out to suppliers saying, thank you for your help on this project. But we now know the plan was we're just going to move forward with a fully autonomous one because of the degree of confidence that they have in the viability of it as a strictly autonomously driven vehicle. Now, you had some thoughts on this about how easy it would be to just change courses. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, let's unpack this a little bit, right? There's always some truth to what, obviously there's truth to what Reuters said, but it's also true that when Elon said that they're lying, it's also true, right? So here's very likely what happened. You read the story from Walter Isaacson, okay? That Elon was very confident about Robotaxi. He wanted to build a Robotaxi first designed vehicle. His chief executive team said, no, it's too risky of a company. Let's create a version that is let's create the low cost vehicle, NV91. So they started creating that. And then Elon said, okay, we're going to go all in on Robotaxi. And so then you got the Reuters article says, we've just found out that there's dropping this version of this low cost vehicle. However, if you look at the actual compact car now, the Cybercab, it looks like a low cost vehicle. Why is it that Tesla did not design a Robotaxi? Remember, if you read Walter Isaacson's book, it's like it should be a Robotaxi first design vehicle. It's not just a vehicle that you remove the steering wheel and pedals. It should be, as you and I have been discussing, or I have been, if it truly was a Robotaxi first design vehicle, it's not going to look like a car. It's going to look like, a little bit more just completely different because you're optimizing for the inside and less about, this thing where you're two people facing front and, you got the whole thing. Why did they come up with the Cybercab the way they are? It's because they could easily put in steering wheel and pedals and anything they need to do if they needed to. It looks just like a normal vehicle. So was the low-cost vehicle scrapped? Yes. Elon actually did confirm that at the earnings call. We don't need to do it because of his confidence. He knows at this point, he's so sure at this point that by middle of next year, they're not going to need to be building any other thing, as he refers to. It's like asking me to build, a horse and carriage when I know I already got the car. And in this case, it's the next step, right? I already got the autonomous car. Why would I need to build these things? However, what they did was they're no longer going to build a $25,000 car because of two reasons, right? One is if they launch a Cybercab and for some reason it takes a lot longer than Elon thinks, their plan B is easily to just put in. That's why it looks like a vehicle. They just put in the steering wheel, put in that, and that is your $25,000 car. So for him saying we're not doing it anymore, it's just clarifying we're not, but he could change his mind if he needs to, if it's a plan B. And secondly, he did talk about the more affordable vehicles that with the incentives is going to be under $30,000. So why do you need to build a $25,000 car specifically, if you can just take what you're doing now, continue to cut costs, increase the gross margins, or reduce the cost of goods, and offer a car about the same price as you would have done if it was a more affordable vehicle, the $25,000 car. So you've got, plan B's all galore. But so that's my, I think
That's
that was a
your
wrong term there.
overview.
Yeah. What do you
That's
think about
fine.
that? Yeah.
I think you're mistaken
Oh.
because the you have to develop it. So what I did is I grabbed a couple of engineers that I know. Ken here on the left is on X as Utah Temp. He is a retired airbag engineer. And my question for him was, if you put in a wheel, you could put in an airbag. He's like, of course. I said, what if the wheel is removable? He said, well, then I don't know where the airbag goes. Do you put it in the wheel? Do you put it above the wheel? Do you need to pick. And if it's removable, then you've got to deal with all the crash worthiness, does it detach in the event? I mean, is it sturdy enough to stay? You have to develop it. It has to be developed. On the right here, I've got Ford engineer Bert Sloan, retired. He had worked on the Mach-E project. Before that, the Electric Explorer program, which is what they thought it was going to be. And he was telling me that. And I said, what would we have to change to make the RoboCab back into the NV91? And I said, well, and the answer was kind of everything. I mean, the motor is probably going to be, Elon had said at Investor Day that the motor would probably not use rare earth materials. It'd be a much lower power motor, a degree of power that a human driver might not find acceptable. So you need to swap the motor, you need to put in the wheel, you need to find a place to put the pedals, and that real estate in the footwell may have been already taken up by something else. And then I said, well, what else do you, and they're like, well, now you need to bring back all the buttons and switches. Now you need to bring back all the other controls. And then that changes the wiring harness. Now you need to add on mirrors, which includes wiring, it includes power, it includes cost, it induces drag. I said, what about the battery? 200 miles, is that going to work for someone who's planning to drive this thing all day? And they said, boy, maybe not. So you need a different battery, a different motor, different screen, different infotainment. You'd want a smaller one if you're going to have controls in the vehicle. You could do it, but it's a completely different car at that point. Sandy Munro even said, yeah, you can do it. You can, of course you can. But what you need to do is bring back the NV91 project to actually engineer it and make it happen. And that project was canceled. So those become two different things there. So if it's not that, what on earth could it possibly be? And I think the answer, you and I have discussed this. Jordan Giesecke did a nice little dive on it. The new cheaper models, it could be all of the things that we saw. We could do and I had a chance to talk with Jordan before this post went up to give him my thoughts on it, to share some things he may not have considered. Cloth interior. Now we're just talking about the Mexico Edition Model 3, where it just trims out a lot of the little fancies. Once you get rid of the cloth interior, you don't need heated seats, you don't need ventilated seats, you've got cheaper material. Replace the glass roof with metal. Glass is expensive and heavy. Yeah, remove the heated seats, remove the seat motors. I don't know if they would actually do that. Reduce the range to, I'm going to say 250 would be the more reasonable of the two figures. Reduce the horsepower by about 25%. Yeah, that's the rear wheel drive. Or, I could reduce it even more, but they've already got the motor. Just do the rear wheel drive motor. They could even go as far as to replace the motor with the one without the rare earth materials. Smaller steel wheels. I don't think they could go as far down as 17 or as far down as 15 inch, but cheaper, but smaller wheels are cheaper and they're more efficient. And then the ride is smoother. And then you don't need as expensive of suspension. The LED lighting, I think you're only saving a few bucks. Dial back the sound system. What do you think of this list here?
Oh, it's a very good list. Of course, I agree with you. As we talked about, you take the existing Model 3, Model Y, and instead of creating a brand new vehicle with different form factors per se, might be easier to just strip it out. And he estimates $5,000 of the Model 3. That's where you might hear Elon saying, I think we can have a more affordable vehicle that's under $30,000 with the incentives. That makes a lot of sense that that's the case. Just a quick comment about you can't take the Cybercab and turn that into a I saw a more affordable vehicle. The only difference between your experts is that the Cybercab is going to be done in an unboxed model. So it's possible that all the things you said, oh, how come it doesn't have the, the side mirrors and it's going to have the wiring? Well, then they create that version of it with that in it. I'm not saying
Oh,
that,
yes.
yeah. I mean, and like you guys said, it's possible, but there's so much to consider. So I'm not saying that at all, but there's a reason why the Cybercab looks like a car.
Mhm.
There's a reason why.
I am confident that if tomorrow the world government says autonomy is illegal,
Right.
and it must be scrapped,
Right.
not going to happen, but let's just create a crazy hypothetical. If Tesla needed to pivot back to the NV91, I'm confident they could do that. And I'm confident they could complete the engineering before they could complete the factory. Absolute confidence. But they would have to do it. It's not because we'll just slap in a joystick. Okay, we can't do a joystick because that's going to require all new validation and testing through the crash test agencies, NHTSA in the US, and other similar bodies elsewhere in the world. If you wish to have a rudder, you're going to need to get it approved because there's a lot of factors to consider. The other thing that didn't make the list that I'd shared with Jordan was get rid of the powered, heated, dimming mirrors. The side mirrors have a lot of wiring, a lot of complexity, a lot of cost that you could trim out. You'd save 100, maybe $200 right there. And one thing he did,
I just think that actually his list is so long, and yet the Giga Mexico version of the Model 3 was $3,000 US dollars that was cut because of removing the rear view screen and changing everything to cloth. That was pretty well it. $3,000. So all these other lists that he's got here, I think it's just
adds on.
It could be more than 5,000 reduction is what I'm saying. Could be more.
Yeah. I strongly disagree with make the FSD computer optional.
Right.
I think that would be a mistake. Yeah. But if we're going to try and zoom out and see all perspectives, I could see that. I mean, I guess you could just have everything else except the chip itself. And then when the next buyer wants it, they could just clip it in. But then you lose your forward collision warning. You lose your lane departure warning. That's not Tesla. Safety is in the DNA. And and I know because I've got one of those black lights and I checked. So that's a little CSI joke there. So yeah, we could absolutely do a much cheaper car without getting radical. And if we wish to have that compact car, because I would love to have a little runabout like that. Heck, give me one with an open top, baby, I am there. But all of those things would have to be engineered, and things that sound simple rarely are.
Yeah. Would they take the new Model 3, or maybe they could just revise the old Model 3 look and feel of a car?
Oh.
Would that? You know what I mean? Like, because you don't want your more affordable vehicle to look like the Model 3 that you're selling at higher price. You don't want it to look the same.
I agree with you. I think that's a great idea. Make it a retro kind of feel. I agree that they would want to do something to visually differentiate it so that people who paid $50,000, $60,000 for their car don't feel like they're driving a VW Beetle. But I don't know what that change could be. It could be something as simple as a different hood. But I agree that they would want to do something to differentiate it so that the fancy folks can continue feeling fancy. Guys, in the comments, what do we miss? What do we misunderstand? Leave it. I beg of you. What are your thoughts? What could the more affordable one be that doesn't require the engineering and resurrection of a dead project? Everybody else, like, subscribe, stay tuned, and juicy. You know what you're doing. Head on over to Herbert's channel, see what he's up to. He has some of the best guests and some of the craziest, most informative discussions you can find on these interwebs. And I can't wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the flippity flop.